live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio. And joining us today, the Honorable Michael Steele, former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, former chair of the RNC, the first Black American to hold either office, and now the co-host of the Weeknight on MSNOW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, Michael? You guys got a ripping show. I mean, it really
We
is.
have
I
fun.
mean, the interaction between everybody. But I understand that Luke Russert is replaced Menendez. Is that true? Is that
It
true?
is true. It is sad to see her go, but happy for what she's doing. She's got a new show now on MSNBC on weekdays at noon. And so she's in a good spot where she's delivering the news as the journalist she is. And Luke has joined the table. We're 1 week in to Luke on the show, and it's been a lot of fun. He is settled in nicely. And you got three big personalities now, so it's you never know. So when you get back there, Senator, I'm just saying, buckle up, baby, because you never know what you never know.
It's going to be what they say is a rodeo. So that's
Yes,
good.
indeed.
That's good.
Yes, indeed. But it's a lot of fun. We are good. Our audience is it's growing, and the Versant MS Now charting the course that they're having to charted media is sort of setting a new dynamic to the game, which is fun. I mean, and our show, primetime show, weeknights at 7 p.m. Allows us to not just capstone the news of the day, which is okay, this is what happened. Well, I know what happened. I've been hearing about it all day. Um, so our goal is to take that and turn it on its head and not just say, well, this is what happened, but really kind of bring something fresh, which is why we've enjoyed having you on our show. Because you bring both an inside and outside perspective. You have a businessman's perspective on things as well. You have a Midwestern perspective. So we love to have people at the table who just, culturally, politically, economically bring an energy and an insight that a lot of viewers don't necessarily get. And you're freed up, dude, of that, Washington trap where you got to do Washington speak and it's talking points and it's all that BS. And if anyone's watched the show, the one thing they know I do not suffer well is BS. So
True. The BS meter if it goes very high at all,
it goes very high.
it's all BS on the BS, which is a good thing.
There you go.
Even though I'm from Big Sandy, but it works out good. Hey, we're probably gonna get the Democrats, but I wanna start with Republicans.
Okay.
Mm.
So you want to start with crazy. You just want to start with the crazy.
No, look, the Democrats got a certain level of crazy too, so I
Well,
mean,
that's true.
so but what I wanna ask you is that you're a lifelong Republican. I would
Yep.
assume you've been a lifelong Republican.
This
Yeah.
August, actually this month, 50 years. 50 years
50
ago, I
years.
registered.
That's not bad for a guy that's 39. I
I
mean, that's
know.
pretty good.
I know.
So you've seen things move around, and I've watched things move around, and I think it was pretty interesting. A few years ago, they kicked Mark Roscoe out of the Republican Party. Mark Roscoe was a former governor of Montana. He's actually the dude who changed Montana from blue to red. But they booted him because he wasn't crazy, and
Right.
you got to be
Well,
crazy.
I'm working with the governor now. I'm working with the governor now. He's one of our national leaders on our Republican legacies, a group of former Republicans formed by Senator Danforth about 2 years, 3 years ago. And so guys like Mark Roscoe, whom I served under when he was RNC chairman,
Yep.
I was state party chairman in Maryland. I have a fast friendship with him. He's a good man. And look, man, we're trying to gain some fresh ground for the idea of republicanism, born out of the Whig Party in the 1850s, that talked about individual rights, liberties, and freedoms, and didn't give a damn about um, uh, how you lived your lives. Just wanted to make sure you could live your life well, and attain the American dream. Politics is not a complicated game. You know that. It's what we do to make it complicated to get the grift out of it, to control and retain power. But if left to its natural devices, people would be better off with good leadership. But that's, you know it, you've seen it from the inside. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What you're really saying is you're getting back to the old Republican Party. That's what it is. You're not really breaking new ground. You're just getting back
well,
to the Republicans were when I grew up. Uh,
yeah, well,
but
we are breaking new ground in the sense that look, this party is largely in this framing toast. It is not salvageable as an idea. The institution, yeah, the brick and mortar, okay, you got a building, you got a central committee meeting room you can go to. But the brick and mortar is not what makes the party. What makes the party are the ideas and, more importantly, the ideals espoused by the individuals who call themselves that thing. And so republicanism um, has at its core been about how the words in our Constitution are lived by every individual who fall under that Constitution. So when you start with "we the people," all of us are created equal, endowed by our God with inalienable rights, not just a Christian God, but the God
Mhm.
of faith that you believe in. That same power is imbued in you, and so the party strayed from that. Look, I always make the point, Senator, that you know when Roe versus Wade was decided in 1973, the Republican Party didn't immediately hit the streets and have pro-life gatherings every January, right? Um, it did not land that way. In fact, it didn't become a thing. The abortion issue didn't become a thing for the party until they realized how they could leverage on the matter of race in the country. It had nothing to do with the woman's right to choose. It had everything to do with the racial fights that were going on in the country, and it could be used to leverage against the narratives of civil rights by getting people in the religious community fired up about something like this. It wasn't until 1980 that it was even put into the Republican platform. So if the 7 years, it took you 7 years to figure out the value of that fetus's life on the
Mm.
heels of that decision. That took you 7 years to realize what the Supreme Court had done in 1973. It wasn't until 1980 you realized, "Oh my god, you're killing an unborn child." That took you 7 years to figure that out? Come on. So you begin to understand how, guys, that were around the creation of the moral majority, um, you know, all of these little foundations and groups that sprung up, beating their chest about Christianity, setting this moral tone for the country, were just largely full of crap. And why do we know they're full of crap? Because now the veneer is being pulled off of their hinds, and we're beginning to get a look at all of their little picadillos, the pornography, the pedophilia, racism, yes, the misogyny that they cover by wearing a cross. And I'm fed up with that. A lot of Republicans are fed up with that, and that's not republicanism. Never has been. In fact, at the core of republicanism, as you know, Senator, is libertarianism. We are libertarian at our core. We don't give a damn how you live your life, what you do in your bedroom at night, right? Unless I got an invitation, right? So that that's not my interest. It just isn't. What is
well,
my interest, though, is whether or not you can achieve the dream. You can strengthen the bonds of your family and your community through the hard work and the dedication and the commitment. You can run your businesses. Yeah, we'll pay your taxes, but we don't want you overly burdened with taxes. We want you to be able to, benefit from your labor. Those are all reasonable things. So it's going to be an interesting challenge, sir. It really is. But I'm up for the fight.
I'm glad. I'm going to let Maritza go here in a second. There's one other thing that Republicans used to stand for that I don't see it in this administration, and that is being concerned about the debt and conservative.
Oh,
Mm.
you coming with jokes this morning?
Oh, look, man, it's
Could you please go back to tell me at what point, um, in the last 30 years have Republicans done anything to really effectively lower our nation's debt? In fact, it pains me to say that the times our nation's debt has gone down, or even our nation's budget has been balanced, it has been under Democratic presidents.
Mhm.
Bill Clinton, not Ronald Reagan, balanced the nation's budget, um, and set a course for uh, prosperity during that time. Um, Look, George Bush, my man, as much as anything, wanted to come in to do those things. 9/11 changed the game.
that did.
And then, that elevated the nation's spending to protect and defend against terrorism, but it had a fiscal impact. And, you can't even begin to talk about what Donald Trump has done. I mean, Donald Trump spends money. I mean, a drunken sailor is embarrassed by Donald Trump, and the amount of money that he's spending. So, this idea that we're going to, you know, decrease the burden on future generation senators is just a load of crap. We haven't done that. We've burdened those future generations. The big beautiful bill did nothing for farmers. It did nothing for average workers out there. The initial tax cut in the first term did nothing. I mean, I talked to guys who say, guys who live in, doing pretty well. Say, I got $1,000 back. From the tax cuts.
Yeah.
It wasn't this great thing for the middle class. And so, we have not produced, we are good at politics. We're good at, beating our chest and scaring people and getting them fired up and angry about stuff, but we're not very good at governing, and we haven't been for a while, and that's unfortunate.
I just wanna just correct the record so you know, the Republicans before Trump used to say they were conservative, and they used to put debt clocks up in the Senate offices, when there was a Democratic president.
But
Now they don't even talk about it, and they don't even put the debt clocks up, and this, as you pointed out accurately, the president of the United States right now is spending money, that would make a drunken sailor blush. That's a fact, and so it's pretty crazy. Mauricio, you better ask him a question.
Oh, I have so many questions. I mean, the thing is, I had a whole list before, but now after all that, I have so many follow-ups. Okay, first up, though, uh, i- l- why do you still identify as a Republican, Michael?
because of how we
When
started
a
the conversation. How
Yeah,
nothing I talked about initially about being Republican had anything to do with public policy. I didn't
right.
join the Republican Party, because, as a Roman Catholic, I was pro-life. I didn't join the Republican Party because, I exclusively wanted tax cuts, right? And wanted to, do all these big policy things. I joined the party because I identified with its origin story. I
Mhm,
when I as a young black kid growing up in Washington, D.C., still living with the vestiges of Jim Crow and segregation. When I was a child, there were parks in DC my mother could not take me to, because they were for white only. And the remnants of that were still in existence when I was in, elementary school and in high school. And so having to navigate through all of that as a young black kid, when I got to the point where I wanted to, participate in the civic life of our country, because guess what? They taught civics back then. So I had an appreciation for what government and the role of government could be and should be. And certainly being in the nation's capital, national news was my local news, right? So
mhm,
this was my backyard, and the country came into my backyard every day, every weekend. And so all of those experiences helped me kind of generate an idea about what public service should look like and what political affiliation and activity should be and the things that should move that. So I asked my mother, who's a Roosevelt Democrat. My dad was a Roosevelt Democrat. What, should I be a Democrat? And they will, don't be a Democrat because we're Democrats. right? I grew up in a Democratic household. I had one aunt who was a Republican, and apparently the folks didn't talk to her much in the family. So I was, I was like, what's up with Josephine? Why y'all don't talk politics with her, right? Um, so all of that was part of that exploring, and then my mom convinced me to go out and figure it out, and I did. And I went and I
Yeah.
learned the history of both parties, and I realized the political home for Black folks was the Republican Party. The first Black elected officials in the country were Republicans, senators, governors, and members of Congress. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This party understood the value of freedom. And they were there for the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments against the odds and against the still aggressive, regressive attitudes of the South, largely white men in the South. That still prevailed in the late 50s, early 60s. The fight for Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act was real, and I watched some of that unfold, and certainly the remnants of that by the time I was 10, 11, 12 years old and could begin to understand what some of these things meant. And so I decided to be a Republican, because of this idea of freedom. This was the party that was gonna fight for my freedom, my rights to be free, to live my life, to
Mm.
create the American dream. It wasn't possible for me. The abortion decision landed in '73. We were
Right.
raged, with this, Vietnam War. Watergate happened right down the street, you know? So all these things were going on, but this thread meant more. So when I told my mother I decided to register as a Republican, she looked at me, she said, "Why the hell did you do that?"
She thought you would go out and figure it out and come back.
These people are crazy. So that's it. I mean, for
Well, and
me,
I asked that for a reason because, I mean, I hear from so many people who say, "I didn't leave the Republican Party. The Republican Party left me by adopting all these platforms." And I'm going to weave in some headlines here as we chat. But I'm going to show you this post that Representative Thomas Massey put out last night on X, and he said, the irony of Republicans controlling all branches of government while bankrupting the country, starting a war, sending money to fraudulent programs, violating the Constitution, giving corporations immunity, but arguing that the biggest problem we have is stolen elections. And so he's going after the party. We're seeing also that there's
could
this,
you keep that up for a second? Could you
you
keep
got
that up
it.
for a second? I wanna
You
talk
got
about it. I love Tom Massey. I really appreciate him. I love his fight. Dude, um, Tillis, Massey, uh,
it. Cornyn.
Collins, Cornyn, why couldn't you guys pull yourselves together and create a block inside the House and the Senate in which, you could avoid it, the bankruptcy of the country. You could avoid it, the starting of the war. How many times did you vote for when it came to the floor, uh, a war powers resolution? How many times? Right?
Hmm.
Sending money to fraudulent programs. What did you do about the dismantling of AID, USAID, and other programs, the disintegration of the federal government, violating the Constitution? Hell, the Emoluments Clause in the first term, let alone the Emoluments Clause. Now, the President of the United States just took control of a $400 million airplane gift from Qatar,
Yep.
from a foreign government.
Yep.
Go read the effing Constitution and what it says about that.
Yep.
The Constitution makes it very plain. He can't do it. So I appreciate all these Republicans now coming in space once they decided they're leaving Congress or they got their ass kicked by Donald Trump in a primary. Now they find a spine and they come out. And again, not trying to put any shade out there, but dude, I've been in this fight from day one. I remember in 2016 telling people, y'all don't want this MF, or y'all don't want to mess with him. This is bad news. Don't do it. This is not republicanism. He comes down that staircase and he immediately goes after immigrants.
Yep.
And the party just put out a autopsy saying that we want immigrants. We want to be a part of the immigrant story as a party. So I just can't wrap my head around
Yeah.
this at
Well,
this moment for me.
it
So
It goes into a broader conversation that I think is an important one to have. I was going to put something else up. There's this luncheon tomorrow with the Republican caucus in the Senate where the president is supposed to go, and we're hearing people like Senators Cornyn and Senator Cassidy say, we're going to have a reality check with him, and we're not going to pass the Save America Act. But they've now been ousted essentially from their jobs. And there's this other headline of Tucker Carlson saying, I can no longer report the Republican Party. And this is, he quickly clarified he can't support the Democratic Party either. But it leads us
And
to this
you
broader
know what that you know what that is? Put the
He's
Tucker
running.
thing back up for me as well. I love you, Bruce. You're hitting all the hot spots. You know what this is? This is the guy. This is the guy who burns down the rec center in the community, sets it on fire, and then comes out when the reporters saying, "Oh my God, what are your thoughts about this?" "Oh, I can no longer participate in this rec center. I can no longer be a part of this rec center." You burned it down. You were part of the problem. You
Yep.
sat there and set a torch to it. I've got some good. I mean, the Tucker Carlson of MSNBC days is not the Tucker Carlson of today, for sure. There's no doubt about that. When he started out on TV, he started at MSNBC. A lot of people forget that.
Uh-huh. With
And
Rachel Maddow.
yeah, yes, thank you very much. Um, but that's literally saying I can't support the thing I just blew up. And so again, I'm not feeling Marjorie Taylor Greene, same thing. She's coming out saying, I can't be a member of this is no longer the America First Party. Well, it was never the America First Party. You tried to make it into that thing. Republican Party has always been the Republican Party, right? It's never been the America First Party and all that, and all this other BS.
Well, I
But
think that's the bigger question though, and we've had this question, which is the off ramp for MAGA. So some people say no, like they did this. They burned the rec center down. They did this to us. Like no, no, too little, too late. But then other people say, well, we need to give them a place to land. There has to be
no,
an
we
off ramp
don't.
to get back.
No, we
Okay, so
don't.
that's yeah.
So what you really
You don't give rodents a place to land in your house.
you set you
I
set
don't
off
know
the
what kind of
base.
house you live in, but I know I don't.
So what you're
I see a
saying is
roach, it gone. I see a mouse, it gone. I'm not sitting there going, "Okay, let's build a nest." Hell no.
so what you're saying, Michael, is the words are great, but talk is cheap.
Yes.
If you're gonna say it, you gotta walk the walk, and
You got
you ain't
and you
walking the walk.
gotta walk. You gotta. The one thing I think this, Senator. I know this as two elected officials. The one thing you have to be always in your service is consistent and authentic, because that's what the voters are going to trust. That you are consistent no matter what the issue is. You approach it with diligence and foresight, yes, but you listen to people and you're not afraid to do what the work requires, which sometimes says John Tester has to call up Michael Steele and say, "Hey, I need you on this effort." Or Michael Steele has to call up John Tester and say, "Dude, you and I, we got to walk this line together because it's the only way it's going to get done." And right now, our system is broken because of the infestation of stupid. The infestation of people who don't give a damn about public service and are more interested in their grift, how much I can make, how much I can churn the system up, how can I piss off my base enough to write me a check.
Yeah.
And I don't want everybody voting. Hell no. I only want the people who are going to vote for me.
Yeah.
And if your voters think they're going to the polls, well, I'm going to put armed guards out there to scare them off. Or I'm going to put the ballot box 4 counties over so they can't get there. I'm going to
Right.
do the things to obstruct their access to the franchise because I'm afraid of them. And that's what our system has become. And so, again, I appreciate my fellow Republicans who are finding a voice in this space. And I don't want, I mean, it's still needed regardless of when it comes. That is true. I'm not, but damn, look at the damage that has been wrought before you say something. And that's, I've been in this since day one. I in 2024 endorsed and supported Kamala Harris, not because I love everything Kamala Harris was talking about. No, because the country needed a steady hand. Can you imagine Kamala Harris now as president of the United States? Would the East Wing still be there, people? Would we have green crap growing in the pool because the president of the United States put out a $14 billion no bid contract to a buddy, his pool guy? Respecting pool? Would anything have happened in Minnesota? Would Mr. Purdy still be alive? I mean, think about it, people. I mean, this is not hard. I mean, I get you, Kamala Harris, oh my God, Gaza, oh my God. Was that worse than this? So here we are.
That's some things to think about.
Mhm.
Uh, one of your compatriots at MS Now, Maddow brought up a story last night or the night before, I don't remember which, on Tulsi Gabbard,
Oh, I have
and
that one.
she led it with, you know, what would what would this what would be said if Obama was president?
Oh,
You know? And but give me some ideas. Well, go ahead. You go ahead, Marisa. Talk about Tulsi, and then I want to get Michael's ideas on Tulsi Gabbard and what the hell is going on. You know,
Well, we'll just do a little primer on this. It's a shocking piece, and you should read it in full because it warrants this. This is in the Washington Post. But John Swain published this piece based on hundreds of emails that were shared with him. They came from a woman who used to be part of this like breakaway Hare Krishna group. Tulsi Gabbard was raised in that group. She's called the founder, her guru. And these emails basically reveal like directives with authority, including talking points for her to say on TV about like very specific topics. And the Post looked at 32 TV interviews from this time frame between 2014 and 2016 when she was in Congress and compared them with the memos. And 24 times Tulsi Gabbard recited the directives almost verbatim. And yeah, Maddow opened it by saying, "Can you imagine like what in the world would we do if we found out Obama, nominated somebody to be director of national intelligence who is being so manipulated by an outside source?" But it's a great question, and I mean, are we going to see investigations? I don't. Go ahead, Chairman. I know you have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, the couple of things about Tulsi is interesting. She couldn't make it as a Republican. She couldn't make it as a Democrat. Um, uh, she's bounced around and tried to, you know, land someplace to get power, position, or whatever. And Donald Trump, he knows a patsy when he sees one. He knows someone he can manipulate very easily. Someone who's desperate for attention, like him. Someone who is, wants or seeks power. Donald Trump, interesting enough, is not about the power game the way we know it in Washington. It's a very different thing for him. Um, it's about how that's all can be used to get money, and he's all about the deal. The deal is cash. Give me cash. I want the money. And so if he can put people in positions that will help him facilitate that in some way, why do you think Jarrett's in the Middle East? Why is Witt in was it
because
Fuck.
Witkoff, thank you, I was thinking Whitcomer. Witkoff in the Middle East? What the where's Marco Rubio?
He's at the UFC fight.
Where where's the Secretary of State? And I've known Marco since he was Speaker of the House of Florida, right? Marco's a good guy. Should have been, in my view, governor of Florida, and his trajectory would have been much different than it is now. But that's just my view. Good man, but where is he? And getting into that, which I guys like Marco have. I mean, I don't know how much you really want to be Secretary of State that you're going to allow this man to do what he's doing, to take the country to war. That would have been, I mean, people ask me, I mean, I'm going to get back to Tulsi, trust me, but I'm setting a course here. So follow the narrative here.
Okay.
We're tracking it. We're tracking.
Yeah, people would ask me, um, if I were chairman when Donald Trump was president, would I have stayed in the job? I said, no, Donald Trump would have fired my ass after Charlottesville because there's no way in hell as a national chairman and absolutely as a black man would I stand up in front of a bank of microphones after Charlottesville and condone their fine people on both sides.
That's right.
That issue would not happen. And I probably would have found some soft words, but they would have had a whole lot of knives in them. And no, we don't. Again, you've got to be consistent. You've got to have a set of values that you bring to a moment like that, that the people see in you leadership and they trust you're making the right decision. The appointment of Tulsi Gabbard, the appointment of Mr. Pulte, the appointment of Clayton, who's supposed to replace Mr. Pulte, none of them, none are qualified for the job. The law, when they created this office, said very clearly, the leader, the director of national intelligence shall have extensive national security experience. Pulte is a developer. Clayton did something. And Tulsi did even less. None of them are qualified. So when you're looking at this story, you have someone in the first instance who's unqualified for this job. And you look at the fact that this person, unqualified as she is and was, is also influenced by sources unknown.
Right.
And already having storylines linked to her that place her in the sphere of influence by foreign governments, right? That are not friendly to the United States, have not been friendly to the United States. This story is very concerning. But understand, people, this story is less about Tulsi Gabbard and more about Donald Trump because he's the one who put her in the position. He's the one who vetted her. He's the one who signed off on her appointment. And so all roads lead back to him. Incompetency starts at the head. Your operation only functions as well as its leader. And if your leader is adult, a man-child, a sycophant, a megalomaniac, and highly unqualified himself for the job he has, this is what you get. So, and I ain't saying anything out of school because all y'all who listen to this know what I said is true.
No, that is true. So, two questions. Number one, you talked about the grift. You talked about leadership is money, and that's some motivation. It's all goes back to money. So, two questions for you. Number one, what do regular folks do?
Yeah.
And I have talked to a ton of my folks that I served with in the U.S. Senate and asked them if the democracy will survive, and it goes everywhere from no, if the Senate doesn't work, it's over with, to yeah, I think we'll come out of this assuming we have a free and fair election in 28.
Right.
So could you answer both those? Could you tell folks what they need to do to stop the kind of crap that's going on that isn't
Right.
working for regular people and small businesses and family farm and ranch agriculture? And then what is your opinion on the democracy if it will survive?
So I'm going to, both those questions will be answered this way, because at the heart of both those questions are these words. I have them memorized, but I'll make sure I get them right because I'm going to say it, read it. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Those words didn't start we, the government of the United States. We, the United States. We, the Department of Education. We, the executive branch. We, the judicial branch. We, the Senate or the Congress. We, the people. Because we don't teach civics.
Yeah.
We are ignorant of these words. We are ignorant of their value and importance to us. We are ignorant of the articles that set forth how we govern ourselves, and we are especially ignorant of the amendments to these words that ensure our liberty and our posterity. And because of that, we've allowed Donald Trump to become president of the United States. And so I say that in order for us to begin to fix ourselves, we have to begin to believe again in these words. And we have to begin to understand the value of those words to us. They are not abstract. And folks, I get it. When these words were written, me and Maritza was not included in them. Okay? I get it. They weren't written for us. But you know what? We own them today, baby. We own them today. And that's what the founders did, wittingly or unwittingly. Thomas Jefferson wrote the hell out of this thing. He laid it down. And that side of me allows me to believe that there was something greater that moved a man who owned slaves to write these words that empower us today. And these very same words will free us from what we're experiencing right now, a tyranny that we brought on ourselves. I've always said the men and women that we elect are an extension of who we are. Take a look around, folks. Look at who you're electing. Because that's who we are.
That's right.
That's who we are. So the power rests in the words. The action is what you do with these words. And the most important of the rights that are extended to the people is the right to vote. Because that's how we manage all of this. That's how we manage the tranquility. That's how we provide for the common defense, right? We vote. How do we promote the general welfare? We vote. How do we secure the blessings of liberty? We vote. Get off your ass and vote. That's how you change this. This November, you've heard it for a number of cycles now, the most important, baby, I can't even begin to express to you how important this election is this November. And you know why you know it's important? Look at what Donald Trump is trying to do to stop it.
Yeah.
If this election wasn't important, if they didn't give a rat's ass about how the vote's going to turn out in November, they wouldn't have invaded Georgia. They wouldn't have put ice on the ground in Georgia. Tulsi Gabbard wouldn't shown up at the voting center in Georgia. Donald Trump wouldn't be now putting out executive orders demanding that states turn over their voter rolls. Why do you think they want your voter information? The government now wants to decide whether or not you will be allowed to vote. Don't be a dumbass and not understand what's happening right now. And then you know what? I know you're not. I know you get it. I know you understand it. But, sometimes we just get lazy. with liberty. And so that's the way I would answer that question. These words have value and they matter to us. And the way you exercise and act on them is to vote. And this November, you have to overwhelm the ballot with your vote. A turnout unlike anything. This has to be presidential level turnout. Presidential level turnout.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, you talked about Our Republican Legacy. This organization you're involved with was former Governor Roscoe. Um, are you noticing any tangible changes or shifts? Are you noticing more people say, "All right, yeah," because we're seeing it kind of more publicly. Are you seeing people come back and say, "We're done. We got to get back to the Constitution. We got to get back to these roots of the Republican Party"?
Yeah,
Are you hearing that?
I am. And look at the work. So our Republican Legacy put in place a statewide effort about a year ago. Started to execute on that in the late fall, early turn of this year, January or so. We now have 27 states organized with a chairman, leader, and team of activists on the ground who are working to support candidates who value the idea of the Republican legacy. Look, we know we're going to lose some primaries, lose a lot of primaries because MAGA controls that process right now. We've got to recognize that our primary system is part of what breaks this whole electoral process. I advocated
Yeah.
as national chairman to eliminate the primary. It was not a popular idea, but I think we should. I think it needs to be vastly reformed. I think we do a sort of a jungle primary. Everybody jumps in the pool. The top two go to the general election, right? Now, because it changes the way voters behave and it changes the way, guess who? People want to be elected behave.
Candidates,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, so you want to juice the system in that framing, and ORL has been very successful at putting together teams of activists like myself and others who um, don't want to reconstitute the old Republican Party. That's not what this is about. This is again about taking the value set, those principles of supporting our allies, honoring the words of the Constitution, obeying the rule of law, creating an economic foundation that reaches everyone, not just not just those who are billionaires and now trillionaires, right? So it's a very dynamic space, and we've seen Marissa, such an incredible turnout of support. It's growing. There are people who scratch their head and go, okay, what is this? That's fine. Just, go to ourrepublicanlegacy.com, look it up, see for yourself. You'll see the leadership there. There are a lot of names that you'll recognize that are a part of this. And so it's that grassroots component, which is very important. But even beyond that, I think there is, even on the Democratic side, uh, a sort of yearning, sort of a wanting to push the elbows out. I give you the mayor of New York. Look at what's happening in New York. Big primary tonight. We'll
Yeah.
see the extent of his early influence and direction of the party, given some of the candidates who are of the Democratic Socialist Party. Um, and to be honest, I'm not afraid of either of those words, whether they're singular or together, because America is always about the experimentation and the growth of ideas. And if we don't like ish, guess what? We stop it. That's what I'm telling the people when it comes to Trump and this administration. You do it at the local level. Now let's do it nationally. You don't like something, stop it. And so this is the strength of this fledgling democracy. We're only 250 years old. England is over 1,000 years old. Great Britain is over 1,000 years old. We're not even a good teenager right now, right? So, there's still growing pains, but we cannot screw this up to the point where it dies because the rest of the world, I think, really wants the light to stay on here.
Mm.
And we have to take a direct hand to keeping that light on. And we do it through our voting. We do it through the kinds of candidates we put up to represent us. And we do it with a sense of policy that actually benefits everyone, that sense of consensus. I think John Tester and I would have, when I ran for the U.S. Senate in 2006, I think about if I'd won that election, what it would have been like. And I could work with a John Tester and I could work with a Chuck Schumer. Why? Because the people who sent me to Washington would require it. That's the job. So
And the fact is this, and you know this, Michael. You've been talking about it. You talk about it on your show every night. We have far more in common than we have in differences.
yes,
If it wasn't for the money and the politics right now, we would agree on everything. There's probably 10% of the stuff that we disagree on that we'd really like to go down and fight on. The rest of it, we could get work done that would really move this country forward. But that's not the way the system works right now. And so I would just say your conversations, whether it's on weeknights or whether it's here, I really appreciate the common sense that you bring to the equation because
no, I appreciate it. I mean, guys like you make it easy. I mean, it's opening up the lane to recognize where the country's headed and how the only way we're going to survive that direction is to change course, and we have to do it together. We can't, I just can't rely on my Democratic friends to do it. I certainly can't rely on Republicans to do it right. So, uh, we all have to figure out how we do it together and put the labels aside. We can pick the labels up later, and you can wave your tribal flag on an issue down the road. We're having big policy
Mm.
discussions, as you mentioned, Senator. But right now, on this 250th birthday, the country is the country is asking, "What about me?" What about me, right? What about us, US?
Yeah.
And that's the priority, I guess, or should be.
Okay, so I did learn when I was preparing for this. Well, when I met you in person a couple months ago now, I learned you have a really terrible sleep schedule. But I also learned in researching for this that Michael spent 3 years in seminary preparing for priesthood.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I mean, selfishly, I'm glad that didn't work out for you because I think you're a needed voice here. But I do want to know if you have ruled out running for any public office again.
It's tough. Getting through a Republican primary here in Maryland would be like getting through a Republican primary anywhere. It would be tough. Um, uh, I would love to see our primary system open itself up. When I was state chairman, I opened our primary up to independents, and because I believe that everyone should have a voice in that process. So I still value it. I loved the public service when I was lieutenant governor here in Maryland. The idea that I could actually make the wheels of government turn in favor of people. I know that's something that was important to the senator when he was in office. Yeah, I would not turn away the opportunity. Um, but I'm right now more interested in sort of creating lanes and pathways for not necessarily folks younger in age than me, but more prepared and ready to go into this fight with this generation of politics. Um, and I think part of what I'm being asked to do now is to mentor that and help that become a reality for candidates who are occupying more and more the democracy space, if you will. But if a ballot opening comes, brother can, I'm not gonna turn that down. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. I look, when I was in the seminary, I was an Augustinian seminarian, which is the order of our Pope Leo. And I always loved Saint Augustine because Saint Augustine came from the street. He was a bad and his mama prayed for him every day. Just like, Lord, please help this crazy and the Lord did, converted him, and he becomes one of the greatest doctors of the church. And because he brought to the faith journey the realness of life. And that's something I try to do and tried to do when I was in public office as a lieutenant governor, as party chairman, to bring that real experience of life to public service. We'll see. But
Well,
gotta move.
yeah. Well, we're glad that you're talking to the folks every night uh, on weeknight, and we're also glad that you keep Simone somewhat in line.
Oh, baby. Yeah, right. Right. My
Maybe
sister my
maybe
sister wrote, and this was one of the best moments, so far, and I've had a lot of good moments, but Simone and I were having a conversation one night, and my sister sent me a text. She was like, "If you had a daughter, it would be Simone."
Ah. But that's what makes it so entertaining. I mean, you guys are hilarious and
Oh,
so smart.
yeah, Simone brings, oh my god, such an incredible depth of for someone her age, um, it's the experiences that she's had, the youngest, press operative in the White House, the youngest, political operative in the party at the time when she was making her moves. The depth of knowledge of history, experience, it comes out every night. We have a lot of fun. She keeps it real. She has the street in her ear and on her phone. And we couple that now with Luke Russert, coming from, the House of Russert.
Yeah.
And he brings that journalism integrity to the table. But again, he's a DC boy like me. And so we appreciate the city and its heartbeat in a different way than most, because we live there, we grew up there, and so it's a real nice combo meal for folks to have every night at 7 p.m. We have fun.
there you go. That's good. It's good to have you on today, Michael. I really want to, before Maritza closes this out, just thank you for what you do, and thank you for the time you
Mhm.
could spend with us today. You're a busy guy, and I really appreciate the opportunity to
Well,
visit.
I'm honored, man. I've always admired you and watched your work from afar, and um, appreciate your journey and the realness that you've always brought to the work. And we are happy to have you at our table every time we can get you. And it's a real treat for us. And Rissa, oh my gosh, it was such a treat to meet you. And folks, I have to admit, when I met her, I was kind of blown away because it was at a big function. And
Yeah.
so she brought the bling, baby. She brought the bling. And I didn't even recognize her at first. I was like, "Oh my god, this woman, who is this?" And then she just said, "Oh, okay, Tester, yeah, okay, got it." But I forgot about John. I was like, "So
Ah. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. No, it was I kinda cornered him and made him talk to me for a long time at that party and that's just, I had so many questions for you and John had been
good, she
on the
did,
weeknight. Yeah,
she
but
did,
well,
she
we appreciate it. Michael Steele, co-host of the Weeknight on MS NOW, 7 p.m. on weeknights. Thank you so much for being with us,
Thank
sir.
you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you much.
Be
We'll
well.
chat soon.
Be well, my friend.
All right, Senator, let's close this out.
So I just want to say that you put up the Massey quote, and I'm going to tell you was going through my head. My head is,
Okay.
geez, this is pretty cool. Massey's finally he's figured it out. But then Steele gets on and says, "Yeah,
Nope.
let's for him to talk about what the hell's he done about it." Because, and that's a fact. You're in a position to do something about it, and talk is cheap, and actions never happen. And in the House and the Senate both, all it would take is a few people, and they could stop the kind of garbage that's going on from this administration, the kind of spending, out of control spending that isn't providing any return whatsoever. The fact that a no bid contractor, a guy that should never have been painting a goddamn pool, is just a small, small, small pimple on an elephant's butt as to what this is doing. Because the truth is that everything that you look at, whether it's $1 billion a day in Iran, or whether it's a reflecting pool, or ripping down the East Wing, or building some Taj Mahal, it just goes on and on and on. The whole time, he alienates every ally we've got in the world. And Congress does nothing. And Massey, by the way, puts up words that make me feel real good. But the truth is, Steele pointed out, words are cheap. Start doing something about it.
Well, and I was going to talk about too. I mean, I think you're right, and the president is now blaming somebody with a box cutter for this. He says that someone put a 350-foot gash in the paint. Like, come on, man, come on.
Tell you what I think happened as a farmer. The guy who painted
Sure.
it didn't know what the hell he was doing. He didn't put the kind of primer down that'd make that paint adhere to the concrete, and they painted it a dark color, which absorbs heat, which allows algae to grow. It's what happens when you have people who don't know what the fuck they're doing jobs. That's why you have bidded contracts. That's why you have people overseeing those contracts that understand the job that's about to be done. And none of that's done. And a guy that has a casino that goes broke ought not be letting bids out on a reflecting pool paint job.
I know they should have asked Marco to do it. He does all the other jobs. The other thing, the other thing, though, that Michael brought up was about Tucker Carlson burning down the rec center, and I did want to put this up because the president was on Shocker True Social this morning, and he is talking about how the fake news media is just working against him, and they have all of these great things with this deal with Iran, and that Iran's agreed to the highest level nuclear inspections. Well, Iran is saying, no, that's not true at all. We haven't even really talked about that. But more so, down at the bottom, he's talking about how there's a humanitarian crisis because of this, and we need to stop this now. And that all ships, that there's no further naval blockade because he, the president, is going to allow the Strait of Hormuz to remain open. I mean, it is one of these things where, well, there's a humanitarian crisis because you started bombing Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is closed because they closed it, but now he's claiming. So, like Michael brought up so many great points that can be applied to all of these stories that we talk about on a daily basis. And I do appreciate his insight. Absolutely, I think I'm very glad he didn't go into seminary.
Yeah, I've said this before, but I think the president has lost it. I don't think he's capable of making rational decisions. I'm not sure he ever could, but particularly not now. And those posts that go up are just fantasy land crap. It doesn't match up with reality. I think he believes it because I think he's living in that fantasy land. And I think he's lived in that fantasy land for quite a while, by the way. And the other thing I would say is Donald Trump's Donald Trump. He's been a known commodity. If you talk to people in New York City, they'll tell you what he was 30 years ago, and they'll tell you it's the same person today. He is going to do what Donald Trump does. It's the people that support him that disappoint me because if they think that spending the money they kind of do spending, racking up the debt that they're racking up, pushing away our allies in the country, driving gas prices through the roof, getting into unnecessary wars is a good thing for this country. Putting on tariffs, increasing costs across the board for small business, agriculture, working families. If they think this is good, then
Mm,
I'm just disappointed that people just you think it's gonna get
yeah.
better? You think gas is gonna get back to 2.75 a gallon? I don't think so. It might drop back to 3.5 or $4. It ain't there yet, but Jesus, I mean, it's just insane. This guy is not making America great again. He's destroying this country, and he's taking
Well,
away
and
our
also
privacy.
to Michael's point, oops, that's not the one I want. There's this new affordability bill that passed the Senate yesterday. We talked about how Congress isn't doing anything. They did pass this bill, a housing affordability bill with a lot of stipulations here, like dozens of provisions, including incentives to build more housing. And a lot of these lawmakers, including Republicans, are saying, "Yeah, we need to do anything we can to bring costs down." But again, like you said, like Michael said, talk is cheap. So yes, we appreciate the chairman for being on. We could have talked to him for a very long time. And oh, I did want to tell you there's a comment in the chat that says Leah lives in Indiana but is from Big Sandy. I know that John was a terrific senator working for people in ways that matter. I was so disappointed he lost. There's somebody from Big Sandy that lives in Indiana and it's not your daughter?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the banker's son, man. Good family,
Oh,
great family. In fact, I will tell you, when I first ran for the Montana Senate, Lee doesn't even know this, but when I first ran for the Montana Senate, I got a hold of his dad to see if he'd be treasurer of my campaign, and he looked at me and he said, "I would love to, but it wouldn't be good for business." But he gave me another name, and we ended up in good shape. But I will tell you that great family, great kids, who are all grown up and damn near as old as me now, but good people. Yeah,
okay, Lee, not Lee. Yeah, Lee.
and they now live in the new Tornado Alley called Indiana.
The new tornado.
Every
Um,
every other night there, it's crazy. It's nuts.
Okay, well, we have another primary ahead. We're going to be watching that. We're watching for Supreme Court decisions coming out. Again, I'm watching for what happens on Capitol Hill tomorrow in that Senate Republican caucus lunch where the president is supposed to show up. And apparently, some Republican senators say that they're going to have a reality check with him. We'll see. That's what I'm going to say about that. We'll see. I'll be watching that closely. But we want to thank you all for joining us. Do you want to talk about your hat? Have you figured out what it
Yeah,
means?
think I get a lot of hats, and I've gotten a lot of hats, and I think this has something to do with military. It's vigilante, and I think maybe the Air Force, but I just can't remember. I just
I'm
can't
looking in the comments. Like usually someone comes to your rescue when you don't
remember.
remember, but
Well,
I'm sure we'll get
pretty good. I've had this. Let me see. Is that a star in the mountain? No, yeah. You know what? It absolutely is Air Force. This is an airplane. If you look at that, that's an airplane in
Oh,
review. So it's probably F-35 pilots or something like that. So, but it's good. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is, yep, it's Air Force. Tony says it's Air Force. See, someone came to your rescue. I'm going to be coming to Big Sandy. I'm going to be in Big Sandy on the farm. It's going to be my first trip to the farm this weekend. So maybe we'll hop on and do a little something. We should when we're together.
Yeah, she's gonna be in BS spreading BS, so it's gonna be cool.
Just like you do. Yeah, and BS, spread and BS. Thank you so much to Michael Steele. Just a wonderful guy. So much to think about after that conversation. We want to thank Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. We want to thank all of you who joined us both live and who listen on later. We couldn't do this without you and this amazing community that we have built here. And we'll chat again soon.
All right, tally ho.